Hello and welcome to another episode of the Launchpad at EMI. I'm Dr. Vanessa Cox, Division Chair for Computer and Engineering Technologies. And today we'll be having a conversation with Linda Head, Senior Associate Vice Chancellor at Lone Star College. Thank you so much for joining us today, Linda.
Thank you for asking me.
So I'd like to ask you, as a 20-year-old starting to explore your career and that exciting time as you're looking forward to your career and your family, what led you to Lone Star and specifically to workforce education?
I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, in a manufacturing world. My father started at one company and stayed there until he retired, which no one does anymore, except me, I suppose. I moved to Texas right out of college. I was used to workforce education. It was the city I lived in. We had a GE locomotive plant and manufacturing plants on the Great Lakes. It was that part of the country. And when I graduated from college in 1980, U.S. Steel had moved to the South, and so did I. And my first position in human resources was in an oil company in Houston. And I found myself in training and development and college recruiting, of all things. So my very first role was recruiting in colleges for talent. And I didn't have a plan. I just navigated there. In the 1980s, there was, in human resources in these oil companies, they were trying to figure out how to train differently and have hands-on training, not just take a guy and throw him out in the oil field. And IT was changing. Actually, one of my first projects was a new thing called electronic mail, and I got to pilot that out in the oil field. It was kind of a funny time. A lot of things were changing at that time. I quit when I had my first child, and as I was at my exit interview, they told me about the community college and that I could teach part-time, and I ended up starting the next week at night teaching at one of the campuses. There were two at the time.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And you've had a wonderful career here, about 30 years.
36.
36, wow,
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. What are some of, you feel like, your biggest achievements here at Lone Star College?
As a faculty person, at 29, I was lucky enough to be hired as full-time faculty. So working with students is the best, really.
Yes.
In hindsight. Being an administrator is fantastic also, and there's some things I can mention there, but as a professor, you're in the classroom with your students. And I would have 20 or 24 students. I taught first software. Lotus turned into Excel, and Word Perfect turned into Word, and all those kinds of things. And because I taught in the Associate of Applied Science world, you got to be with the student from beginning to end to job placement. And it was so rewarding to be able to be someone that your student depended on and trusted. And you learned about them. You learned about them personally, academically. You got to match them with people that might help them through their career at the college. And then it also helped me keep with my employer friends. I got to have one foot still in the employment world, right? And stay with those people. And yet I was still at the college. It also utilized my instructional design experience and got me into my master's degree, which was in corporate training and instructional design. And so I loved mentoring students. I never was like an academic faculty who works to a PhD in history or English. It wasn't really the discipline for me. It was the being a better professor and helping the student finish to get a job.
Yeah.
It was more about that for me.
Yeah.
So that was my joy there, and meeting more and more employers to help them get a job. In fact, I changed from IT to business at one point and end up being a business faculty once I had enough graduate hours in business to teach business. And then at one point I was at the Tomball campus, and I actually had quit at one point. I went through a divorce and worked downtown again, and I got to come back 2.5 years later and ended up as a interim dean. Well, at the time we didn't have deans, but then there was a restructure. It was a crazy time, and ended up as a dean. And I thought, oh, I kind of like this too, being an administrator, because I got to do different kinds of things, and I was back with my business skills again, and I enjoyed that. And some of the things I got to do, the building we're sitting in, the EMI building, it was a funny thing. I was at the Montgomery campus as a dean, and a couple of things came together magically. We had a new chancellor, Dr. Richard Carpenter. He was kind of a crazy entrepreneurial guy. He met with the CEO of HP, was selling part of this campus, and he bought a third of this campus. He worked his magic to do that. And at the same time, we were approached by University of Texas Petroleum Extension Service to start a new degree in what was called mechatronics at the time, because the oil and gas industry needed more automation technicians for the manufacturers in oil and gas, for oil rigs.
Okay.
And Houston has many more jobs in manufacturing than in drilling, actually, and they pay better. And we had manual machining and welding, but we didn't really have much in industrial maintenance or in automation. So they came to us because they were leasing space at North Harris. Also, the IADC, International Association of Drilling Contractors, came to us, and they wanted us to start the first certification program in floor hands and roustabouts for onshore and offshore drilling. And the two came together, and I went to the chancellor and I said, I think we need a new technical lab. So we ended up designing a 72,000 square foot center for energy and manufacturing. It didn't quite turn out as like we had planned because there were reorganizations and things, and different people were in charge and whatnot. But we have a 72,000 square foot center. We have a lot of beautiful technical equipment, great faculty that teach inside, that care about students, and it started us on the road of robotics and automation for both any kind of manufacturing. Yeah. And in fact, Daikin, that now has 10,000 students and is the sponsor for Minute Maid Park for the Astros, came to us and helped us start a continuing ed version of the program when they decided to stay in Houston. And so that was really cool. Back to my manufacturing roots. Healthcare is another one. We offer every flavor of healthcare, and another major part of my job was to create the degrees and certificates at Lone Star College. Everybody isn't fond of what Dr. Carpenter asked me to do, and then the next chancellor, Dr. Steve Head, because what I was asked to do was create a workforce council of faculty and deans, and create a process by which we do that. And I'm very proud of that. We're nationally known for how we created the 200 degrees and certificates at Lone Star College, because we are very dependent on faculty input because they're the experts, right? They're the subject matter experts, and they're closest to the student. We hire them for what they know how to do. But we also bring in the employers and their job descriptions, so we're sure it's not just faculty interest, but it's based on what the real job is.
Sure.
And make sure that the advisory committees, that the curriculum teams are talking to are employers that are real and engaged. And then we brought in labor market. I magically went to a conference in Cleveland and a new labor market data group called Burning Glass out of Boston was there. And I thought, this is cool. They have in-demand labor market information, so they can tell us at any time who's hiring, what they're hiring, what are the technical skills, behavioral skills, and industry certifications needed for a job.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing. We need to get this. And so we started bringing that into our program development. And in 2020, Economic Modeling Systems, Burning Glass came together as one company, and we still utilize that in our program development. And I suppose two other things that I'm proud of. One is the development of hands-on technical labs. You know, I'm not a memorizer. I never was. I did not like those tests that were A, B, C, A and B, D and C, none of the above. You know,
Yeah, nobody does.
I never did well on them. But to get in and do something and show that you know how to do it, I personally and professionally feel that the more you can get a student to demonstrate what they can do gives those students a chance that cannot memorize.
Yeah.
And there are healthcare, visual communications, manufacturing. There's so many jobs that are hands-on jobs.
Exactly.
And yes, you have to know some theory, and yes, there's some math, and yes, there's some science, but it's not just that.
Right, right. You're not showing up for a job to take a test. You're showing up for a job to do the actual job.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And even in project management, you have
Sure.
to do a project, right?
Right,
You know,
yeah.
you have to show you can do it. So I've gotten very involved over the years and tried to bring to our faculty and our deans various vendors that produce training equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So we've worked over the last 20 years with a variety of vendors so that the faculty and deans through an RFP process can figure out what they want to buy, but to find out who they are and put them in front of the faculty and the deans to choose the best equipment for whatever it is they're teaching. Before that, we didn't have great labs. Mm-hmm. I always felt it was important to know what your choices are, and then from that you can get your choices. So I've also built good relationships with all those vendors, and I've sat on various boards and councils locally and nationally to get to know who those people are and to be an advocate for the college to keep abreast of a lot of those things myself.
Sure, yeah.
And then also to, I've been an advocate for the workforce education professionals at the college, both internally and externally. Mm-hmm. I'm a second generation Italian. I have 26 first cousins, and to be at my grandmother's house with all those cousins in a small little house. She was an immigrant at 15 years old with a prearranged marriage and not much money, and you learn to speak up and speak loud, mm-hmm. and or you didn't get the meatball, but so in Workforce Council, I got faculty and deans to trust me and let me know what they needed. Yeah. So we created workforce advisors. We wrote grants. We built relationships with Texas Workforce Commission to get grants. We built a corporate college to provide customized training to employers, not just for the sake of giving them something, but to get employers to hire our students and build those relationships. I've testified in Austin. I've gone to Washington, D.C. to go speak to our senators and U.S. reps. I've written articles. I'm a big advocate. I've gone to our CFOs, all of them at the college, to ask for money. Gone to our chancellors. I'm not afraid to ask.
Yeah.
They haven't all said yes, but I'm not afraid to ask, and I'm not afraid to show where the problems are.
Yeah.
And I'm also not afraid to say, why would we start that program when this one has 500 jobs and this one has 10?
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes a chancellor will say, we're going to start that one with 10. And it's like, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But or no, we're not going to do that. But I'm just like a parent,
Yeah.
right? But I've always been an advocate for our faculty and our deans.
So Lone Star has remained true to manufacturing and automation, robotics, and I feel like it's come full circle in a way. I think there was a time that it seemed like maybe careers are moving away from that, but with AI, now robotics and automation is again front and center. But what have you seen as some of the biggest technology changes in workforce along the years?
Yes, lots of IT. And in 2020, Intel actually went to the mayor of Houston, and the mayor of Houston came to us in Houston Community College and asked us to develop a degree just in AI. So we did. And I got to make good friends with a guy in Palo Alto in 2020 during the pandemic, because I needed to understand what Intel's vision was, because I am not that kind of an IT expert by any means. And I didn't understand how AI was utilized in especially things like process tech and manufacturing and automation, robotics. So he was very sweet and would explain things to me in layman's terms. And then I also would bring him, we managed 9 advisory councils that were strategic councils for the presidents and the chancellors, and he would come and talk to them about it. The integration of IT into everything has always been there. Always. I mean, it used to be my curriculum team when I was a dean. And it's funny how we've, as academicians, treat IT as a separate department.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, actually, except for Cisco networking or something like that, where you need professionals that are technicians that have to work on the old days servers and routers and things, and now a wireless technology, and we have our own technicians that work at the college. Because really, IT is integrated in everything. And I don't believe in our curriculum we have enough IT integrated in our degrees.
Yes.
And I believe, professionally, there should be a course or two integrated in every degree.
Yeah.
And when the coordinating board came and decided that we could only have 60-hour degrees, I think they did us a disservice, because, in one way, they got us down to 60-hour degrees. But with AI, I think we need a course that in those degrees you're just talking about, to let us now add something around AI that shows us how it's applied within manufacturing. Because the jobs aren't going away, they're just changing.
Right.
Technology just keeps changing our jobs, is what I'm seeing. I mean, semiconductor manufacturing, everyone acts like it's a whole new world of manufacturing. It's really not. It's just smaller, and it's in a clean room. Biomanufacturing. When I had to research that with our team, you take biotech, you take process tech, you take manufacturing, and then you put it in a clean room, and it's tiny, right? You're making pills and lotions instead of making top drives on a drill ship.
That's right.
It's still the same basics of what you're teaching in manufacturing. and it has some AI integrated into it. I haven't seen. It takes fewer and fewer people to make stuff, but it takes different people to maintain the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to maintain the equipment.
Sure.
And the equipment still breaks down. The scary part is my car never breaks down. I never have to take my car in for service.
Mm-hmm.
And my car is now 5 years old,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to take it in for maintenance.
Mm.
So it is a lower paying job probably for the maintenance on my car
Right.
than when my car actually breaks down. So that is the scary thing.
Yeah.
So there are other kinds of jobs that we have to look at. I will recommend, and I have been recommending, that we look more for the integration of engineering programs.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working very closely with Texas A&M, University of Texas, and they are at a place now, finally, where their engineering departments need us. And they now want more hands-on, and they need more hands-on
Mm-hmm.
in their engineering programs.
Sure.
So perhaps now they're ready to not just have academic transfer between engineering to engineering, but perhaps engineering tech to engineering tech,
Right.
because the jobs are getting more sophisticated.
Sure.
And so I see that as the future. A 4-year degree in engineering tech with us as the beginning and them as the end, and real conversations with universities about 4-year engineering tech degrees.
Sure. Yeah, and it's exciting to hear you say that. I know that Dean Johnson is also passionate about a similar program, so I hope that will be forthcoming pretty soon. I want to ask you about the word icon. Dean Johnson will describe you as an icon in workforce education. I'll tell you myself, I first met you earlier this year, well, actually saw you at a Woodlands Chamber of Commerce event speaking about Lone Star Jobs, our involvement with the community, the focus on students, and I came immediately back to Dean Johnson and said, please get me an introduction with Linda Head. So I do want to say that your influence is out there. How does that make you feel?
Embarrassed. Old. Being involved in the community is really important, and then being involved in the community college world. And I hope that the college moving forward allows all of you to sit on boards and councils and get involved. Sitting in TACTI at the state level and being on the board is important. And for faculty and deans to go to the TACTI conference and not just sit there, but to get on the board and to help plan the strategy for Texas workforce, to go speak and testify for workforce bills, right now with House Bill 8, there's a conversation about how TEA in the high schools and CTE, you know that the classes in CTE don't match up with the WECM at all. So it's very difficult to have dual credit and WECM together. Mm-hmm. I hope that the leadership brings that back, because in the old days, we used to sit in the room together with the CTE faculty and align those. So I hope that the faculty and deans are encouraged to get involved in those conversations with TEA and the Higher Education Coordinating Board, sit on National Council for Workforce Education, National Council for Continuing Ed and Training, National Council for Advanced Technology Centers. Those things help you spread the word of the good things we're doing at Lone Star College, and it helps you professionally get known, locally and statewide. I also say I'm a big advocate for females. And when you get involved in boards and councils and these workforce professional organizations, it's another thing that I had brought to Workforce Council and the members there is the grants and those opportunities is that you get to know where there's money to do different things, and then you get to meet the people in Austin and you get to try things. I had written a grant for females to recruit more females into the skilled trades and into IT because there aren't enough. Because women just don't know.
Right.
And when you talk to an employer, 90% of them will agree. A female CNC machinist makes a better CNC machinist than a male. They pay better attention to detail. And they can sit there still longer.
Yeah.
And there are things that they will say. Now, HR in their departments might not like it,
Right.
but they will say it privately. And women don't know about those jobs.
Right.
And girls in high school, I've been on a female sponsoring program for young girls in high school in Conroe ISD. We put in money and give scholarships to women that have a child while they're in high school. Every single girl we interviewed, every single one wanted to be a nurse. Well, guess what? They probably don't have the grades.
Right.
And they may or may not be good in biology and A&P and those really difficult science classes. They might not even make it in nursing. Nursing's tough. It's a tough, and you have to go full time. It's hard to have a job while you're going to school when you're in a nursing program. You have to finish it in 2 years. And I got out of that organization because no one would be straightforward with these young women and talk to them about other careers.
Yeah.
And it drove me nuts. So to talk to them about other types of careers. So I wrote a grant, and we got the grant. And I find that there aren't enough opportunities to go into high schools and talk to young women about careers. So there is an organization that the college is involved with that I would love to see us stay involved with, that we called the Community College Partnership and Workforce. And all 9 community colleges are part of it. And there's a conference every spring where last year in Galveston, 1,000 young women went, and businesses in Petrochem recruited young women and told them about it and had their young women employees talk about how great it is to work in the petrochemical industry.
Sure.
I recommended to a vice chancellor that it doesn't work here anymore that we should do that here for manufacturing.
Absolutely.
We should hold it here, right here at University Park, and we should send it out to all of our school districts, all 11 of them, and invite young women to learn all about the different jobs in energy and manufacturing. We just haven't done that yet. I think it's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, I can say, having previously taught some mathematics courses here at Lone Star College, that I've had female students come up to me and say, you know, Miss Cox, nobody ever told me I could be good at math before. And when you see that confidence starting to build, you know, it's a beautiful thing.
And when you apply it, no one ever applied math for me.
Yeah.
If someone would have applied calculus for me, I might have liked calculus. I didn't even know what calculus was.
Right.
And I was good at math until calculus. But if you could have applied it for me, I might have understood it.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of guessing. I passed it, barely. But wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
To do something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
So I love reaching out to young women. And in fact, in my retirement, I was just yesterday, someone reached out to me and asked if I would participate in an executive women's mentoring program for women in the business world.
Yeah.
And of course I said yes. I always say yes. I say yes to everything. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But to reach out to women in high schools or maybe in the 9th grade to get them interested.
Yeah.
I personally don't know that 6th graders are ready to understand all the stuff, and I know there's a lot of people in Houston that think we should start in the 6th grade. That's great, but to grab people and in ninth grade when they could start in 11th grade in a good solid dual credit program. I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. I am with you 100%, working on a grant in Women in STEM right now. So,
Oh, great.
yeah,
That's fantastic.
Yes. So, Lynn, let me ask you, you've had an amazing career here. I've seen you, on the boards. I've seen you win awards for leadership. It seems like you're at this precipice, and what's next for you? Is there, a passion, something personal or professional that you're really looking forward to?
I've started a LLC. My maiden name is Leto. Leto Consultants. My main goal is to figure out how to help a student job placement.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about that. I worry that our students don't know how to go about it, and we haven't figured it out yet. Mm-hmm. And in interviewing 18, 22, 3, 20, I don't know, something like 20 colleges, community colleges primarily, and a couple of universities, we haven't figured it out. Mm-hmm. And it's so difficult. I've been calling the old advisory committee member companies, and you can't get a hold of anyone. So if I can't get a hold of anyone from having these relationships I've had for a number of years, no one answers the phone. And then when you get someone on the phone, they tell you to call headquarters in Kentucky, mm-hmm. Or go online. And it must be very difficult for a person who is a first generation to college in particular, mm-hmm. who has no contacts out in the business world, for a parent or an uncle or someone to go, hey, I have an uncle or a friend that works at ExxonMobil, and go call this person or send your resume to so-and-so. That doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So I'm very passionate about that. And I want to do something around that, and I'm figuring that out. I also have 2 daughters that I adore. One who has a big career as an oculoplastic surgeon in Miami, who's starting her own business. So I want to help her with that. It's hard to start your own business. She's decided she wants to go that route. She left Houston a year ago, and it's tough. I'm her little unpaid consultant, helping her hire her first employees. And doctors don't know how to start businesses.
No.
She's a surgeon. She's
not trained for that.
It's really funny. They don't know.
Right.
They don't know any of that. I've hired lots of people. And I have another daughter who quit her job to raise her children. And she has a third that is due a month after I retire. And she lives 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
So I have a personal life also.
Good.
And so I have that. But I will continue to work part-time. I will continue to talk about community colleges because I'm so passionate about what we do. And I have things yet to do with friends of mine that are retiring.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one at 66 years old who's retiring. I have lots of friends that around the country, and we're trying to figure out things we can do together. Thank you for asking.
Before we wrap this up, since you mentioned finding employment for our students, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, Dean Johnson has organized a series called Meet the Employer. There's a local company, Edge Technologies. They've come twice. And what they do is we invite all the students across the campuses, and Edge presents on the jobs that they have openings for and all about their company. And I do want to say they made it known these are not dirty jobs, too. There is, a lot of women are maybe thinking, I can't have a career in manufacturing, but they do address that specific point. And then after their presentation, we held interviews, and the students just walked in with their resume, and we have actually, there's a couple of people under contract with Edge right now. So students, they can work semesters or in the summer. So if we find the right companies and bring together the employer and the student, we're getting to see some of that magic happen. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's been great to see.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope the goal at Lone Star is every student should have a resume when they graduate. Every student. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a basic.
Yeah.
And maybe every student can go through Clifton Strengths so they know their
Yeah,
strengths.
absolutely.
So they can answer that one question, right?
Yeah.
And that everybody asks you, what are your strengths? And hopefully they can all get a great first job when they finish.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much on behalf of the entire division of computers, engineering, and technology. We're so grateful for your time, and thank you for being here with us
I
today.
appreciate you very much asking. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us for this episode of Launchpad at EMI. We'll see you on the next one.